Boys, my name is Kris Renfrow. I'm a hockey goalie coach as well as a personal trainer based out of the one and only Cincinnati, Ohio. Here with Ben.
What up? It's here to pick out your brain again for a little bit, and I'm excited for this topic.
Let's talk about it.
So it's kind of like we're almost doing like a series now of like coaching and like ways to make money with coaching, and you know, and I guess it's like you're like in a different like spectrum. You're not like on a team, but like coach individuals. How is that?
It's funny. There's a couple guys that I know who are affiliated with teams, and I love that dynamic. And I'm sure at some point I'm probably going to be hooked up with a team, whether it's semi-professionally or whether it's just like some local junior league or whatnot. But the problem that I find with sticking with one team is usually hockey teams are very particular about social media, and I'm kind of crazy. I want to post whatever I want to post. I don't want people having jurisdiction over what I say, what I do. If I throw a video up, I don't want someone to come at me and be like, hey, you need to take that video down. So I just like say everything goes. I'm going to upload whatever. And that is more tailored to owning my own business, having my own thing going, as opposed to playing by someone else's rules. So I have had situations where I was with teams. There was a junior team that I was working with for quite some time. But honestly, it's a lot of it too is they can't always pay me what I'm worth if it's, like a lower tier team. So yeah, it's just nice being able to do your own thing. I do love the idea. So we'll see at some point if that ends up happening. But yeah, man. So for the guys out there who are just getting into coaching, I highly suggest going that route to start just to get the experience. But from there, if you're someone like me who likes to have their own autonomy and do what they want to do, then, going forth and doing your own thing, honestly, it's like the best. So
you have like a lot of experience and like valuable knowledge and such. How do you use like everything because everyone's different. How do you narrow what you know and everything you value into like these individuals?
For myself, how I structure my sessions, I like to go into a session with a general blueprint or idea as to what I'm going to run. But honestly, I would say as soon as I get there, typically, this blueprint or idea of drills that I have sometimes ends up going out the window because you have to tailor the exact situation where the goalie is right now on the ice. You can't just have everything written down in a strategic playbook and be like, okay, this is everything we're going to run. You got to go on the ice and feel out the goaltender, feel out whether it's a hockey player like regular skater or a goaltender, feel out where they are. And if they're having an off day, you might have to be working on something completely unrelated to what you envisioned. But obviously it helps having like a general playbook, general idea. But yeah.
How do you deal with like you're talking about like structure and everything, and how do you coaches are great. Let me get this straight. Like coaches are great. Each one has value, has knowledge, even though it not be in general. But there are some bad apples, and
Yeah.
you have like one specific player that's been taught this one thing that is like not right. How do you get through that? Like get to them that it's like not good.
That's a really, really good question, man. So there are a lot of kids that I've worked with. I was going to go more into like behavioral stuff. Thankfully, that's not as common in something like hockey. Like obviously there's going to be kids who are just, they've been conditioned, whether it's at home or with friends, to be like out of pocket. But a lot of kids in hockey, they're kind of dialed in. They're not super, super crazy. But if we're talking about like a specific skill issue or like a specific thing that they're doing just continuously wrong, for the goalies, I'm trying to think of a common one off the top of my head. It could be maybe a kid's like too used to getting up with the wrong leg. Like he hasn't been taught like there's a proper leg to get up with within a certain movement, right? So like if you pad slide to the left, you should probably get up with the left leg. Obviously this isn't 100% of the time, but generally speaking, that's the rule. And so he might be continuously getting up with the right leg, which would be the wrong leg in this situation. So, the more repetitions that you have on like a given activity, the harder it's going to be for a coach to break through that. There's another one with glove positioning as well, where kids like to get like this quick turn of the glove, right? And that actually makes your glove smaller. Like if you're making a glove save and you go like this, and that's something that's even hard for me. You're making your glove smaller in proportion to the net here. So one of the biggest things that you want to do is actually, instead of just going like quick turn of the glove like this, you actually want to move your glove with more of a fixed position. So that's another thing that I see quite often. And it can take so much time working on that one thing if that bad habit is just built up continuously over the years. So that's why I always tell people, like, go get proper coaching, even if it's like once or twice, just to make sure that you're not getting any sort of bad habit developed that's going to plague you throughout the rest of your career.
Can someone like detect that? Like if it's like it is bad coaching? Because like I know like as a player, I look back as like my high school and the coach was fine, but he wasn't there wasn't a lot of coaching us up. Like it was like everyone had to become their own student and their own essentially own coach unless they went to like camps and such. And it's like it's hard not to throw anybody on the bus, but it's like, hey, like how do you determine that's like, hey, that's not how you're not your coach isn't the right person.
Uh-huh.
Because
So
like I can only visualize like with you like pretty much being like a personal trainer and personal like coach, like you've got to have like some conflicts, I guess, with that. Like how do you deal with it?
So it's very important for goalies and players to make sure that they're getting as many references of experience as possible from different coaches. You want to have many different frames of reference. So try to, like, even if you're not sticking with one guy, like there's a couple goalies that I work with who've stuck with me for years, right? And then there's other goalies who kind of like they come in and then they come out, and they're this evolving door of, they'll see me for a little while, then they'll see another guy, and then they'll come back. And I think that's a really smart idea. I think you should have a lot of different coaches that you go to, and then from there you can pick your solid one that you want to stick with, because you're right, there are a lot of people who can be very convincingly wrong on something. Like if I go up to a goalie and let's say like I'm completely I'm gonna say trying to think of something off the top of my head, like modern school goaltending is dead, we're only gonna do windmills and double pad stacks. And I'm like, if I was like super, super convincingly like, the butterfly is the worst. And I actually have a couple people who do this in my comments, and it's ridiculous. But they think like old school stand-up goaltending is the only way goaltending should be. There's one guy in particular who is on every single goalie page, goalie coach page, and he just does this constantly. And I think it's the stupidest thing. But let's say I did this, and I was just very convincingly like, okay, like butterflies dad, only old school. That's going to be very detrimental to the development of the kid. And if you're too convincing, the kid might not even know. But that's why it's so important to get many different frames of reference, talk to a lot of people, so you can identify what is good coaching and what is bad coaching.
That's a good point. That's kind of funny though. The guys talking about stand up. It's like just watch beer league.
Yeah, well, I mean, this guy, man, he like I confronted him on there's this guy named Jamie Phillips, and he's a guy who he's a really good goalie coach. He does like D1 professional goalie coaching as well. And he was a guy that I played with for a little while I was backing up for the Cyclones when he was here in town. And yeah, dude, this dude just like goes on his videos, goes on my videos, goes on like there's another goalie group in enhanced or increased performance. And this guy is just nonstop like butterfly is the worst, like only stand up. I'm like, dude, you're so disconnected from how the game is actually played. In an ideal world, I think stand up is really cool. And it's really, really neat way to play the position, but it just doesn't work when, the game is so fast. Like, yeah, if you're playing, D5 beer league, that might be something you could do. But if you're trying to like, really enhance your career and do something great in the sport and play at a high level, then there's just no way. Like it's just not possible. It's too fast. The game's too fast. It's just no.
That's funny. What are some what are some challenges that you make or that you face personally? Like,
So we were talking about this before we started this interview about the sleep thing, how, you're hustling your face off and you can't find the hours to get like a full 8 hours of sleep in, right? So same thing with the coaching. Again, typically in the summer here, super chill, super laid back. I can get pretty adequate sleep every night. But when the season starts up, I'm looking at anywhere from probably like 3 to 5 hours a night. And so what ends up happening is I'll wake up at, let's say, 6 a.m. I'll run through maybe 3 or 4 clients. I might be able to catch a couple Z's, get a couple hours in of sleep, like a nap or two, maybe an hour or 2 hours straight. And then from there, back to work. I coach a couple people while I'm actually at work. And then I don't even leave the rink until 2 a.m. because we have a bar upstairs. So, if I'm going to bed at like 2, 3 a.m. and then I have to get up at, 5 or 6, right? So there's just not a lot of leeway for sleep. But for me personally, and I know there's a lot of science to not agree with the claim I'm going to make, because you should be getting a lot of sleep. But there's something about when you're not sleeping a ton where you just have more momentum. I think you have more edge to you. I think that you're in some ways, like, I find myself more like harder, like I'm not um I don't know, like, and like not as weak. Like I'm so in it. Like I'm like, okay, let's go, like hustle, grind. Like I love that feeling. Versus in the summer, it's like super laid back and chill. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel as disciplined typically when the summer starts, just because I don't have to be, right? I have more time, and it's weird. It's really strange. So it's something that I have to kind of adjust to. So
Definitely unique, and I totally get that working third shift with the sleep schedule. Um, and what is like something that you are seeing when it comes to like clients or just like coaches in general that's like that as a group that everyone should start improving when it comes
all
to like coaching and such?
Yeah. So I think for the coaches, I think leading by example. I think like living a lifestyle that is worthy of being a coach. So like, if you're and I want to be clear, there are coaches who might not be in the best shape. There are coaches who might not be living the life that you want to live, who are still phenomenal coaches, and they can convey information and they're great guys. But I think it's very important for us coaches to like be in shape, to be role models to some degree. Like I find that any kid that I work with, there should be some sort of idol mode. Like the kid or the person that you're working with should be like, damn, like I kind of want to be like this dude when I'm older. I think that you should have that type of ambiance as a coach. Live a life by example. But as far as the actual kids and some of the things that I see when I'm training kids, they don't prioritize off ice training like at all. Like, they'll hit the ice maybe 3 or 4 times a week at most, and then they're like, okay, I'm done. Whereas some of the best athletes in the world, like they're gonna go do their on ice, and then the same day they're doing their off ice, and then they do that 7 days a week, right? So the more consistent you can be on doing activities that are going to propel you forward, whether it's in hockey or whether it's in fitness in general, it's going to be super, super useful for you. So for anyone out there who's like on the younger end, or anyone who wants to get great at hockey, or wants to develop their fitness, just hit the gym more. Consistency is key, and I say this time and time again. And some people listen, but I think the majority just like in one ear out the other. They don't want to be consistent. They don't want to have that like hustle mentality. They just kind of want to, I don't feel like going today. I'm not, not good.
Yeah, and not everyone can be a Phil Kessel. And I remember in high school, we played with this guy. I still remember those words. He's like, I don't see a point in working out. Like I hit the ice all the time, and he's a big dude already. But it's just like
Mhm.
you could have been so much better if just taking like an hour of your day just to hammer out a workout or something. And it's
So,
just like, hmm?
no, keep going, keep going.
And it's just like, and it just kind of like surprises me. Like, I mean, honestly, like I wish I had the mentality I had now that in high school or even in college, just I would have been such a better player. I would have been able to probably had a lot more ice time because it's just I'm the way I am now. I'm more disciplined than I was back then.
Yeah, man.
And it's just kind of weird because like when you get older, it's like, oh shoot, I actually have to watch out for my health. And I wasn't I didn't have people to kind of like, I guess like coaching aspects is like to push me to develop those habits. They were just kind of like, go do it. We trust you. Go on from there, kind of thing.
Exactly. You know, it's funny that you say that about that kid telling I don't see a point in going to the gym. There's a video of Gretzky. He was on, you know, he's one of the talk panel for like the NHL now, right? So he's always like talking. Love Gretzky's class act, good guy. But one of the things that he was saying was, you know, when he would work out with the team, he's like, why do I even have to do this? Like, this is, you know, working out's not important for what we're doing on the ice. Like, it's just on, like, I want to do with all the on ice stuff, none of the off ice stuff. And I'm like, man, that's interesting that he says that, given how great of a player he was, you know, has all these records, et cetera, et cetera. But if you go in, if you go and watch like how hockey was back then, like in the 80s, 90s, right? Dude, I don't even think, and this is so controversial to say, because like again, Gretzky's class act, fucking love the dude, absolute beauty. But dude, Gretzky wouldn't even be a fourth liner in today's league, like at all. Like if you watch 80s hockey, bro, and you see him skating around, like it, dude, that is so trash. I was actually watching some goaltending from that era as well, and I was like, this is like the worst goaltending I think I've ever seen in my life. And to think that was the show back, and obviously it's like 40 years ago, right? So times change. But I mean, I have kids who are mites, who are squirts, who are better goalies than like whatever that league was back in the day. Like, I'm sorry, but that is just, like the game has transcended leaps and bounds from that era. If you're a goalie and you're watching this, that you got to watch the goaltending. Like, sit down and watch like highlight reels of, not even highlight reels because they're going to show all like the crazy saves, but like just go watch an actual game from the 80s and you're gonna be like, this is the most trash men's league shit I've ever seen in my life. Like you know, again, super controversial, but um yeah, it's just nuts, man. And if you watch today's hockey, and even especially with like Connor Bedard, everyone's talking about Connor. You know, go look at some of his stuff. Like he has stuff that's posted constantly. He's in the gym all the time. His workouts are insane, man. And you know, he's one of the best players in the league. So you know, it might be.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason for it, and yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's always so funny when you see those goals of goalies getting scored on, and it just looks gross. Like, it's like, what are you doing? Because they're like flopping everywhere.
Man, it's so. I mean, again, different era, right? But um, yeah, it's just so funny to see. Like I was watching this video recently where this guy was making like a standard blocker save. Like in today's goaltending, okay, you just butterfly blocker save goes to the corner. It wasn't a fast shot. It was like a 60-mile-an-hour shot. And this dude makes the blocker save and just like flails around as he's like making the save. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Like who?
It's like, what's going on? They needed you back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. What it is. I mean, everything with time improves, right? I'm sure in 40 years from now, everyone's going to be looking at our league and, you know, how hockey is now and be like, man, that was trash hockey. Like, you know, but times are forever changing.
Yeah, like, how do you like adjust? Like, think about it, even like 5 years ago. Like, there's like subtle changes, but how do you adjust so you don't fall into those like bad habits of like, oh, this is expired or something?
Yeah, so I've talked to a couple pro guys about, you know, where do they see goaltending going through? Like what's the next phase of goaltending? And I remember specifically one of the guys who he got a couple starts for the Buffalo Sabres. I don't think maybe this year, but he was playing in the show a lot. And I remember asking him specifically, I was like, where's goaltending going? Where do you see hockey evolving for goalies? And he said one of the things that scouts are starting to look more for are goalies who are less thematic and militaristic and more athletic. And I was like, that's a very interesting point. So, you know, for myself and a lot of the goalies out there, they've been taught like, okay, you know, perfect form, perfect technique. And that's super fundamental and crucial for your success to some level, right? Because you want to have really good T pushes, shuffles, pad slides, butterfly slides, C cuts, RVH, right? Using that. Like there's certain things that you want to be very perfect at. You don't have the perfect form. But what ends up happening is when everything is so perfect and tailored to systematic, militaristic goaltending, you lose some of that athletic ability. So those bigger saves, you know, those big windmill or pad stack saves or what have you, typically end up going out the window. And in some ways, you can get scored on more because you're not making those desperation saves. You're only sticking to this like very militaristic style of goaltending. So what this goalie in particular was telling me was like that athletic form of goaltending is what these scouts are looking for. Like they want to see goalies who are not just like on the puck every second, who have incredibly proper positioning skills. They want to see guys who have some of this acrobatic, athletic, natural ability. So I thought that was really interesting. And another thing too, there's this idea of height going into the NHL. Like there's only, if you're under 6 foot, you're not going to make it to the show. And what I would say to that is that might be true in the context of the NHL. There might not be that many guys who are 6 foot or above, or sorry, 6 foot or below in the NHL. But I can tell you for a fact that there's some guys in the minors who are definitely under 6 foot. And I can tell you for a fact that even out of the guys who say they're like 6'2", 6'3", they're fibbing those numbers. And that's something that people don't talk about. When you're someone who like hockey is your entire life, you're going to do whatever it takes to progress and propel yourself to the next level. And I can just about say that there's a lot of guys who are, some of those numbers are fibbed. And yeah, it's just something people don't talk about. And then not only that, but there's like teams and leagues all over the world that you could play in as a professional goalie. That's, you're not 6 foot, right? Like an example that I always use is like pretty much any team in Japan, any professional hockey team in Japan, like they're all short, bro. Like if you're a goalie and you're not 6 foot, you're fine. Like
it's like you can make it here. But yeah, that's kind of funny. I remember my freshman year of college, we would talk about after college, we would go play at the Australian League.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not North American or Europe, so it's like competition level is way down.
But, or even like there's the Fed here in the U.S., the Danbury Dashers and what have you, Dayton Demons.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like we talked about a lot of like bad things and like pointed out a lot of like like habits and such. But what is some stuff that you're seeing that's like good? Like, like you're seeing all these younger players. Like what's some good things that you're noticing that you're seeing more often?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I'm so jealous of out of these kids who I've coached is they have so much more access to information. Like for myself, I never had access to the online coaching that these kids have. Like there's so many great goalie coaches out there posting so much great content. And you can literally go to practice. Like if you went to a stick time, go on Instagram, cycle through a little bit, find a whole bunch of drills from really, well-known worldwide coaches, hop on the ice and you're like working on the same stuff and you know what to pay attention to. For me, like I remember hopping on the ice, like, and I had a lot of great coaching, but I remember hopping on the ice and being like, shit, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm a goalie and I might be the only person out on the ice, but I have no idea what I'm going to run out here because there's no one to shoot on me. Whereas in today's world, that's just not true. Literally, you get to the rink. Oh, no one's here. Okay, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, search around. Oh, this is a cool skating drill. I'll do this for like 30 minutes. Like, that just did not exist back in the day. There was some very, very like low quality, low key information that you could find, but now there's just a flood of information, which is awesome. It makes the game better all around, and it gets, especially here in Cincinnati, like we want to try to get these kids as like to the highest level they can. And I can see it's working. Like that online information is crazy. When I was younger, before I went to Eastern, there was no AAA team here. Like there was no AAA team in Cincinnati. And now there's a whole bunch of AAA teams. So obviously the information is getting across, and that's just great to see. So hopefully the hockey keeps progressing through that.
It's always a good thing to see the game even blowing up in random spots. And like I remember seeing Nashville. When I played in high school, I think there was only like 16 high school teams, which is still a lot. There was breaking up into 8. When I left, the next 2 years later, they added another 6 teams to it. So it was just like, it was an insane amount of high school teams. Just like in Tennessee before Nashville became what Nashville is today. It's just ridiculous. And like I can only imagine what it's like now because Nashville blown up. You have all this access to not just like resources, but mean, you said it, online stuff. Like people just looking at. I remember when I would like wanted this. I mean, I'm still starting out, but I remember looking up things like, okay, how do I need to do this and that? And it's just like right then and there. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
That stuff just did not exist back in the day, man. I mean, I remember there's a few videos on YouTube that were like pretty solid goalie videos that would like show you different things between, let's say, like a reactive stance and a blocking stance, or certain ways to go into RDH and like certain things you could do. But there was no, hey, this is how your stance should be. This is where your glove position is. This is why. This is how you should take breakaways. This is how far you should come out. Like there was none of that, dude. Like the amount of depth that they have with goaltending, especially, is just crazy. So it's insane.